September 1945. The war was finally over. Well, almost. While Tokyo listened to the emperor's trembling voice promising peace, one place still looked like it hadn't gotten the memo. Welcome to Yokosuka Naval Base, the beating, rusted heart of Japan's Imperial Navy. A place where submarines once slithered out into the Pacific like steel dragons, and where, just a few days after surrender, American troops discovered, well, let's just say the Japanese were planning a lot more than fishing trips.
Yokosuka wasn't just any naval base. It was the crown jewel of the Imperial Navy, carved into the coastline south of Tokyo, surrounded by cliffs, tunnels, and enough steel to make Pittsburgh jealous. By late 1945, this place had become something out of a nightmare. Half-ruined hangars, sunken destroyers, and silent submarines moored like tombstones. The Americans arrived cautiously, expecting resistance, maybe even a last stand. Instead, they found perfection. Neatly folded uniforms, empty docks, and officers who bowed deeper than the craters left by B-29s. And then they saw it. A massive complex of tunnels carved into the hillside, hidden pens where Japan's secret submarines had been built and maintained. The underwater empire that was supposed to strike back when the mainland fell. Inside those damp caverns, the air still smelled of oil and surrender.
Let's rewind a bit to the kind of military dream that could only have been born in a war losing its mind. The Japanese called it Sentoku, or special submarines. The Allies called them I-400 class, the largest submarines ever built at that time. Each was the size of a light cruiser, capable of sailing halfway around the world without refueling. But here's the fun part. These weren't just submarines. They were underwater aircraft carriers. Each carried 3 Aichi M6A1 Seiran attack planes, specially designed to fold their wings like origami and launch from a catapult once the sub surfaced. The plan: sail them across the Pacific, pop up near the US coast, and bomb the Panama Canal or American cities. Simple, right? Just a casual Tuesday apocalypse. The I-400s were a masterpiece of engineering and insanity. They were Japan's last big bet that one surprise strike might somehow rewrite the end of the war. But by the time the first one was ready, Hiroshima and Nagasaki had already made sure there would be no encore. When the Americans reached Yokosuka, they found these giants rusting quietly, like ancient sea monsters that had died waiting for orders.
September 2nd, 1945. Japan officially surrendered aboard the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay. Less than a week later, American sailors stepped onto Yokosuka's docks under a pale sky. The smell of diesel, sea salt, and a dead empire. What they found was surreal. Rows of submarines, torpedo boats, and midget subs, some armed with chitin, human-guided torpedoes designed for suicide missions. Each one a coffin built for glory that never came. In the base tunnels, they found warehouses filled with blueprints, parts, and half-finished submarines. And deeper still, they found bunkers full of oxygen tanks and aviation fuel, proof that the Japanese were preparing for a last, desperate underwater offensive. There were even rumors that a final suicide submarine flotilla was meant to attack the Allied fleet after the surrender announcement, just to preserve honor. Fortunately, cooler heads, or just pure exhaustion, prevailed. Yokosuka became a museum of madness, an empire's final delusion frozen in steel.
By late 1945, the U.S. Navy had a problem. They had captured dozens of Japanese submarines, from the massive I-400s to smaller models like the I-201 class. Each one represented cutting-edge technology. And that meant one thing: everyone wanted a look, especially the Soviets. So the Americans did what any good victor does when they don't want to share the toys. They sank them. In a classified mission called Operation Road's End, U.S. forces took the captured Japanese submarines, towed them out to sea near the Goto Islands, and sent them to the bottom of the Pacific. The reason? To keep them out of the wrong hands. Translation: so Moscow doesn't get ideas. By early 1946, Yokosuka was cleared out. The base would soon be repurposed, not for Japanese submarines, but as the new home of the U.S. 7th Fleet. The heart of the old Imperial Navy became the beating pulse of American power in the Pacific. The irony wasn't lost on anyone.
Today, if you walk through Yokosuka, you'll still find the scars. Old tunnels sealed off, forgotten docks overgrown with weeds, rusted chains disappearing into dark water. Locals say on quiet nights, when the tide is low, you can still hear the metallic groan of the subs beneath the harbor, as if they're shifting in their sleep. But history doesn't dream, it just lingers. And the submarines of Yokosuka, they were never truly defeated. They simply sank under the weight of their own ambition and took the last illusions of an empire with them.